very special moment for which we have gathered here. We're going to do a couple of very simple preliminary things, but very important preliminary things. We need to prepare ourselves both in terms of documents and in terms of our spiritual sense of who we are and where we're going before we step into the sanctuary and go there. So first, we're going to start from the very mundane, which is the state of Ohio that has asked you to express your commitment to each other and express that with appropriate payment to the appropriate state office. We have that license here. I'm going to sign it as an authorized agent of the state of Ohio, and you're going to witness my signature, right? You're going to witness my signature? Good. Okay, so this says, I do hereby certify that on the 4th day of June 2017, I solemnize the marriage of Amanda J. Elle, that's what you told me your name was, again, and Jonathan M. Cohen. And I'm going to sign this, and you're going to watch me sign it, and then you're going to witness my signature, right? Good, thank you. Did you see me sign that? I did. Good. Right where it says witness, right there. Okay. You saw that too? Oh, good. Very fancy bunch of signers. I see we have that. Right? The state of Ohio thinks you're married, but we're going to go do a couple of other things before that too. So this is the ketubah, the contract of marriage, which we will use under the chuppah, and it has the appropriate language and the date and the names, and it also has a place for witnesses to sign. So at this point, I'm going to ask you, Jonathan, if you are familiar with the contents of this document, and if I am correct that you have authorized this to be written with your name and the name of your bride-to-be, and that you are prepared to present it to her under the chuppah as a record of the promises and commitments of marriage by which you will live. Good. Would you mark that also by giving this a pull? That's it. Good. You guys get that? Oh, good. All right. All right. You also mark that by signing it. Right there at the bottom where it says room. Very last line, right there. Okay, Amanda, you get the same questions. We don't get the handkerchief because you get the ketubah. You are familiar with this document, and you have authorized it to be written with your name. And are you prepared to accept it under the chuppah as a record of the promises and commitments of marriage by which you will live? Good. Would you please attest to that by signing on this line where it says bride? All right. Witnesses to the ketubah. You have seen what they did and are prepared to be witnesses to that. I am. And will stay with us to be witnesses to its presentation under the chuppah. Please do. Where it says, Noam. And right. two rabbis to sign. You would please, Rabbi. One line left. Take it. All right, the last thing we do before we go inside is that we formally bring the bride and groom together. We're going to lower the veil, but before we do that, we ask you to please confirm this is the bride you have chosen to marry.
Let me take a look. This is my very beautiful bride.
Amanda, we ask you the same question. This is the groom that you choose to marry. All right, Jonathan, will you please take the veil? And we offer the words our tradition teaches us. They go back to the earliest history of marriages. May God bless you, as God blessed our ancestors with every kind of prosperity. May God bless you both, and may God protect you. May God cause the light of His presence to shine over you, and may God be gracious to you. May God lift up His sheltering presence over you and grant you peace always, as together we say. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe they are set up for us to join in the sanctuary, and we will bring the bridal party in as appropriate, and we will celebrate the marriage by which you will live.
I do.
Good. Would you mark that also by giving this a pull? That's it. Good. You guys get that?
We did.
Oh, good. All right. We will also mark that by signing it. Right there on the bottom where it says groom. Very last line, right there. Okay, Amanda, you get the same questions, but you don't get the handkerchief because you get the ketubah. You are familiar with this document, and you have authorized it to be written with your name. And are you prepared to accept it under the chuppah as a record of the promises and commitments of marriage by which you will live? I do. Good. Will you please attest to that by signing on this line where it says bride? All right. Witnesses to the ketubah. You have seen what they did and are prepared to be witnesses to that.
I am.
And will stay with us to be witnesses to its presentation under the chuppah. Please do. Where it says, no. And right. There. We have a place for two rabbis to sign. Please, Rabbi.
hair clip.
One line left, I'll take it.
Thank you, sir.
I get to do that too.
And off again. I'm good.
All right, the last thing we do before we go inside is that we formally bring the bride and groom together. We're going to lower the veil, but before we do that, we ask you to please confirm this is the bride you have chosen to marry.
Let me take a look. This is my very beautiful bride.
Amanda, we ask you the same question. Is this the groom that you choose to marry? All right, Jonathan, will you please take the veil? And we offer the words our tradition teaches us that go back to the earliest history of marriages. May God bless you, as God blessed our ancestors with every kind of prosperity. May God bless you both, and may God protect you. May God cause the light of His presence to shine over you, and may God be gracious to you. May God lift up His sheltering presence over you and grant you peace always, as together we say. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe they are set up for us to join in the sanctuary, and we will bring the bridal party in as appropriate, and we will celebrate. May God, who is supreme in power, blessing, and glory, bless this bridegroom and this bride. In happiness and in joy, we thank God for the blessing of love, which we celebrate today, formally consecrating the love of Jonathan Cohen and Amanda Zahn for each other. May they always rejoice in their love. O Lord our God, source of all blessing, fulfill every worthy wish of their hearts. Open their eyes to the beauty and the mystery of the love they hold for each other every day as today. May their life together embrace and nurture the promise of this moment, so that all who know them will call them truly blessed. And let us say, Amen. Wedding ceremony as we observe it today combines two ancient ceremonies, Kiddushin, the ring ceremony, betrothal, and Nisu'in, the marriage ceremony, the ceremony of the Cohen. For each, we recite the appropriate blessings over a cup of wine, and we begin with the blessings of Kiddushin, the blessings of betrothal. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech ha'olam, borei puri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech ha'olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al ha'arayot, v'asar lanu et ha'arusot, v'hitir lanu et ha'nesuot lanu, al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh shamo Yisrael, al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin. Amen. As you have shared the wine of this cup, so may you share all things from this day on in love and in understanding. The essence of the ceremony of Kiddushin is the presenting of a ring, a public, formal proposal of marriage. The ring on its acceptance becomes a sign of the binding commitments of our ceremony. Jonathan, you have a ring to give to Amanda. If you would please place it on her finger and recite the words prescribed by Jewish law and tradition. Harei, at, mikudeshet, li, b'taba'at, zo, kedat, Moshe, v'Yisrael. Words that mean, behold, by this ring you are betrothed as a Jewish wife, according to the laws of Moses and the people of Israel. Amanda, you have a ring also to give to Jonathan. Both rings coming from wonderful family tradition. If you place that on his finger, recite the words taken from the Bible's love poetry from the Song of Songs. Dodi, li, va'ani, lo. Words that mean, my beloved is mine, and I am his. In just a moment, we will take the ketubah that we just signed, and we will invite Rabbi Mark Goldman to read and to present. But I get the opportunity to say a few words first, and I'm going to do that because as we talked, and now it's on Facebook, so it's everywhere. Yesterday, we sort of shared some family history. My haftarah, one that I didn't learn a whole lot of years ago and managed to do reasonably competently since, and the haftarah that your grandfather, Ralph Rothschild, chanted for his Ukhruch, and would have given anything in the world to be able to be here yesterday to chant for yours. And we stand under his talit, and we remember one of the most wonderful synagogue and community leaders I ever had the privilege of working with. A guy who really loved you. Loved his family, and Amanda, I'm so glad you got a chance to know him too. A guy who inspired me in so many different ways. present today as part of the board. I believe he is present. But I'm going to launch into just something a little bit beyond that, because that haftarah that we talked about has more of a message than we usually notice. It talks about the birth of Samson, who was going to be a great guy and no haircuts and the rest of that stuff. But it also gives a message the rabbis wanted us to remember. This is a story about parents. And parents who were told before their child was born, he's going to be very, very special. There are a couple of rules that you're supposed to follow. And the parents got the wrong message. They followed the couple of little notes that they were given, and they really didn't do very much else to inspire their child and let him know that he had a mission he was supposed to accomplish as a leader of his people. So as a fairly young man, he started making some awful choices. And his parents said, okay, whatever you want, it's fine. And the model that we're supposed to get, because we're supposed to know that whole story when we read just the beginning of it, is that parents aren't just supposed to know that their child is going to be great, that their children are going to be destined for something special. They're supposed to do something about it. And your parents have. And your parents have. And I have a chance over the course of a bit of a weekend and of course over a bit of a lifetime to get to know parents who have not left things to chance. No, they got it from their parents. Talked about the Rothschilds, we can talk about the Cohens. We can talk about people who have given so much, invested so much, directed so much, put so much in place to make sure that grandchildren, children would have the right education, the right motivation, the right Jewish connection, the right everything. So that events like this didn't happen by accident and didn't really happen by J-Day. They happened because two people came from two wonderful families, from four wonderful families, understanding where they stood in their family and in their community. Amanda, I haven't known you quite as long as I've known him. I've known him more than he's known himself. But what I've watched in things that we've shared, the manner in which you have offered support and love to a family at different times, to Jonathan, you have shown yourself to be a magnificent life partner, and we haven't even yet tied the knot, and he is very, very lucky. But then I have to tell you, you're very lucky too, because I have known him all his life, and I've watched the standards that he's lived by, and the direction that he's gotten, and the time that he spent in this building, and the things that he's done, and the friends that he's made. And he followed him up to Wisconsin camp, and he brought half the bunk back with him. And he has become a truly outstanding gentleman and a wonderful partner already. So it's time to tie the knot, because we're ready. Two people are very, very ready to make a commitment, to stand together, to go forward with your lives bound together. Love and commitment, with appreciation for how very, very fortunate we both are, for how incredibly smart we both are, and for how wonderful and blessed your future should be. It's my honor at this point, Solotov, and with a prayer for God's blessing, to invite Rabbi Mark Goldman to present the ketubah and to share some words as well.
Thank you, Rabbi Berman. So there's a new law in Judaism that you have to be hooked up to technology. Right-handed, so it's right here. Rabbi, that's all right. The days of Moses, they didn't have to go through this. So I say Todah Rabbah, thanks be to God for the gifts of Rabbi Berman, Kazan Chomsky. We have shared before, Rabbi Berman and I, when I had brown hair, and he looks the same. I have whitened working with Jews. Rabbi Kazan Chomsky, Jack is a very, very talented Kazan. And again, we have things in common. You know, in the Jewish world, if you take off the onion skins and you go before layers, you realize we all know each other, we're all related, and as we found with some of the lovely guests here, we have that. I have to say, Maya Hayom, which we usually say on Shabbat, how gorgeous and beautiful is this day, as well as the bride. How handsome is the groom. I love the reference to the talit. This is a chuppah, the wonderful canopy symbolizing the mikdash, the miniature sanctuary that ought to be your home. You know what? Is it against Jewish religion? Could you hold hands?
I think we better.
I should better be hold hands. I didn't like that you're merachot, that you're standing from a distance from each other. So I'm honored to share with my colleagues here. I'm much older than they, and Naomi, God bless you, and Rob, and Benjamin as the best man, one of the best men. There are a lot of best men here. And we share with you because of your, as Rabbi Berman said, you have deep roots in the shul of the synagogue in Judaism. We're honored to have your mother here. God bless her. May she have healing and wellness. We have the memory of your husband and all of the people who were part of your family on whose tree trunk and roots you stand. I share with Lori and George Zahn, going way back with them. This happens to be Bashir. In Yiddish we say Bashir, meant to be a coincidence that could be just a coincidence, but I believe that it's a matana rabbah, a gift of God, that we are all together on my 50th anniversary of ordination. Rabbi Burton is a much younger man, so he was celebrating his bar mitzvah, and Jack is younger than both of us, so he's still growing up. I knew Lori and her sisters who are here, Janet and Rita, in Sunday school more than a half a century ago, because I was an intern at the temple, which I later became the rabbi. And one of the gorgeous women who are standing in the attendance over here, they're all gorgeous, I know from her babyhood, Bonnie Emmer, and next to her is a cousin who goes back to a baby naming with me, ma'am. The other of you lovely ladies didn't have the courtesy to invite me to share at Judy. And then we have the Princess Madeline, who is stunning, and she's the most lovely of all. We're glad to have you, and all of you lovely people. But we celebrate humanity, the miniature sanctuary that will become your wonderful palace of love. And so I want to refer quickly to some, so you think I'm Jewish, to the Torah portion that we just shared, the holiday we just shared, because Bashir again, you're sharing just after Shavuot, one of the Shalosh Regalim, the three Cohen festivals like Passover and Sukkot. But at this time, even though it was supposed to be the early barley and wheat harvest, it became the anniversary of the giving of the Torah in Mount Sinai. And there are many, many stories about that, that the Jews fell asleep and they had to be awakened to get ready for the revelation. That's why we have Tintelel Shavuot, so for the study of our text. But more importantly, there's a lovely mystical kind of answer. You're all into beauty. Amanda loves purple, if you didn't follow the theme here. And the beauty of the flowers. Well, there's a theme that as the Jews approached Mount Sinai to get the Torah when they were awakened by Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, that there were petals of flowers on the way. And this was the anniversary of Revelation, but this is also the beginning of the creation of your marriage. So the revelation of John, which if I use that particular name, which is not your Hebrew name, but gift of God, and the fact that you have another name, Michael, Elle, which means who is like God. I know you're Menachem Ben Zion. You got all that straight. But you have these godly divine sparks that were part of creation. And Amanda and I have shared since she was a young girl. She has always been a challenging, forceful, independent woman, even when she was a young lady. And there was a turning point at the bat mitzvah when she became so involved with Judaism that she had to find the family Cohen to sink her roots deeply. So from the day of the bat mitzvah to the time that you became confirmed with my successor, to the time that you were president of the youth group, to the time you went out Ottoman, to the time that you were a Latin scholar, to the time that you wrote a thesis that I don't even understand, to the time that you were a dance champion, to the time that you were in the show chorus, music and art and all of these wonderful talents that you have. So, Jonathan, my advice is that you get a lot of vitamins. You're going to need it to sustain yourself with Koach, with energy, with Amanda. This was the revelation that came to you. Not the Torah Sinai, not the Torah Mount Sinai, but how you became. And I know Jews are not supposed to play football, but I know you did for a year. But I know you went to Camp Ramaz, my colleague recalled. And your love of traveling and kayaking and being in nature and grilling out and just vegging out together. But you're an empathetic man filled with Rachmanut, in Yiddish we say Rachmanis, with compassion and empathy. So yes, you are the rock of Gibraltar, you are his steadfast root, and you have this softening caress that eloquently blends into this relationship. So I celebrate the fact that I believe the Rabbanu Shalom has caused you to find each other. And it's not an accident because, as Rabbi Berman eloquently pronounced the priestly benediction that we just celebrated the parashah of Naso, when the priestly benediction became part of our tradition. Creation, there was a Ruach Elohim, the Spirit of God that hovered over creation. That Ruach Elohim is hovering over your creation of your marriage union, which is a sacred brit, a sacred bond and covenant that must exist with olam va'ed, forever and ever. And as you made your name Hebraically equivalent, you're one of the few young women who has more than one middle name. So it's Amanda, Janice, Vera, Zan. And in that equation you chose Ahava, love, Yochana, which I would translate as graciousness, and Esther, which is again Bashir, because she was a very strong Jew, as you have become. And Lori and George, I have to include you, because I shared with you at funerals of your parents. And George, you need to know, is a prince of a human being. He has a lev tahor, a pure heart. As I was celebrating Lori's family, I celebrate you. Your parents, your relatives, but you have been a pillar at our temple in Cincinnati, together with Lori, who started the choir. So it's not an accident that your music was part of it. Someone gave us some advice. I was going to become a pianist. And you know, in music, you have to be in tune. If you're a string artist, you have to tune a board for the guitar, even the piano. So in your marriage, you need to be in tune. You have to have the right tension on the string, or like the mezuzah is slanted on the door. So may you always be in tune with each other, claiming the individuality that was guaranteed at Sinai. Amanda, you never needed women's liberation. And your individuality, as well as your academic expertise. It's a compliment to the inner being who I know is there. Jonathan, you are as well a prince. And I celebrate your potential. But because you've chosen to share life, as you said in the ketubah that you designed, and that one of my former Sunday school students, Beth Goldstein, artistically portrayed, you celebrate that you're better together. So I challenge you, my friend, to be more than Jonathan ever dreamed possible, because you're sharing life with this woman. Similarly, dear man, with love and not just love, you help him equals. You grow together towards the Shemayim, the God Almighty, realizing yourselves as Jews. One more word before we leave. It's a Meshugana world. To all my college students, Christian and Jewish and Buddhist and whatever they were, I always said that no one has a monopoly on God. And don't let the world change you. You changed the world because the divine brought you together. You agree to this? Promise? We'll be watching. So, before I read the ketubah, I have a favorite quote because in my old age I became mystical again. I'm alive. So the Baal Shem Tov said, "From every human being there arises a light that reaches to heaven. When two souls are destined, Bashert, to find each other, the streams of light flow together, and a single brighter light goes forth from their united being." So nurture that light and go forth together. This magnificent ketubah, according to the tradition, with the witnesses, the Shnei Edim, the two witnesses, two rabbis. I mean, you have to realize you're really certified as according to the law of Baha'i. So it says, "Be'echad Shabbat be'asara yamin b'chodesh Sivan," that on the 10th of the month of Sivan, which is obviously the month when the Torah was given, then your Hebrew names are here. We remember and honor you, Rab, because you're a Cohen, so it says your name is Elle. Rivka, your middle name, but you have Naomi as well, so you're a double biblical treasure. And then the names I talked about with you, Amanda, and then with your mother's Hebrew name, and I gave you an adjectival name, George, Lev Tahor, a pure-hearted male. And all of the Hebrew is according to the tradition, and it ends with the fact that it says that it's Shariv Kayam, it's certified, it's valid, it's forever. And then in your creativity, you provided this for the ketubah, the marriage contract. You signed it. Rabbi Berman did an amazing, eloquent ceremony before this ceremony, when the wedding really began. But this is what you signed. And we know that God heard the words, and you heard the words. On the first day of the week, the 10th of the month of Sivan, in the year 5777, corresponding to the 4th day of June, in the year 2017, here as it says in Hebrew, Columbus, Ohio, in the presence of family and friends, the beloveds Jonathan Michael Cohen, son of Robert Edward and Naomi Rebecca Cohen, and Amanda Janice Lyra Zahn, daughter of George Henry and Laurie Jean Zahn, entered into the covenant of marriage. They said to each other, as it says here, and I hope you frame this and put it on the wall to remind you daily, as we embark on life's journey, we promise to love, cherish, encourage, and inspire one another. Our hearts fuse together, creating a unique bond with friendship and compassion at its core. Through this union, we vow to value and support each other, always striving to show sensitivity to each other's needs. We shall nurture one another emotionally, spiritually, and intellectually, always mindful of our respective qualities and strengths. That's that lesson of individuality. May we continue to grow together, maintaining the courage and the determination to pursue our desired paths. We promise to celebrate life's joys with grace and overcome life's adversities with tenacity. May we maintain the intimacy that fosters trust, honesty, and communication. Never stop talking with one another. As life partners, we shall strive to build a home committed to our Jewish heritage, a home emanating love, peace, tolerance, and charity. Through each other's eyes, we see the world anew. And again, what I said in my remarks that came from your remarks. May we be better together. All this is valid and binding. Each of you take the corner of the ketubah. Rabbi and Cantor, will you join us as well? Your parents, George and Lori, Naomi and Rob. So together, this is almost a big deed, a point of strength, rabbinically and cantorially. We entrust this heritage to you both. Love it, guide your lives, apply it, cherish its meaning forever, and bring to your children and to the future world some of the blessings that were ignited today with your marriage. Let us say, Amen.
Turn to our second set of blessings, the Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings of the ceremony of marriage.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol baharav lichvodo.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer ha'adam.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher yatzar et ha'adam b'tzalmo, b'tzelem demo tavnito, והתחיל לו ממנו בניין עד יד. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר האדם.
Amen.
סוס תסיס ותגר עקרה בקיבוץ פניה לתוכה בשמחה. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה.
Amen.
שמח תשמח רעים האהובים, כשמחך יצירך בגלעד מקדם. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח חתן וכלה. אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר ברא
Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who created joy and gladness, bride and groom, mirth, song, delight and rejoicing, love and harmony, peace and companionship. O Lord our God, may there ever be heard in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem voices of joy and gladness, voices of bride and groom, the jubilant voices of those joined in marriage under the chuppah, the voices of young people feasting and singing. Praised are you, Lord, who causes the groom to rejoice with his bride. The symbols are all around us. You stand under Grandpa Ralph's talit. If your Grandma Ruth watching, you've used rings that came from your grandparents, your grandfathers, and Grandpa Jack knew rings, we know that. And your Grandma Violet is nearby. Is very much in our thoughts and in our prayers. And we have the whole family gathered, celebrating both sides with such tremendous pride. And therefore we say, and we are witnesses, that both of you have joined voluntarily in this ceremony, which binds you together in marriage, abiding by the laws of the state of Ohio, and acting in accordance with the laws of Moses and the people of Israel. We do hereby witness and declare that Jonathan, Michael, Cohen, and Amanda, Janice, Lyra, Zahn are now and are always to be husband and wife. We add our blessing, the Birkat Kohanim, the blessing the Torah gives us to share in every generation.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and may God protect you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God cause the light of his presence to shine over you, and may God be gracious to you.
Yisra Adonai panav elecha v'yaseh lecha shalom.
May God lift up his sheltering presence over you and grant you peace always, as we all say. Amen. The very last thing we do at every wedding ceremony is the breaking of a glass, symbolizing our understanding of the world in which we live, that it's not a perfect place. That sometimes things break, and we have to keep trying every day of our lives, individually and together, to put pieces together, to stand with each other, to make the world in which we live a bit more whole for ourselves and for all those around us. Break the courage, break the glass.